Hello, welcome to Knitting Nicely. I'm Danielle Chauvet. Today we're going to learn how to do an invisible cast on for double knitting.
Okay, so when you are doing a double knit, invisible cast on with two colors, you need to put your two colors together like this. And when you're doing a two-color double knit, usually you have a contrasting yarns so that one is very light and one is very dark. Okay, and then you're going to make a slip knot with these two yarns, leaving a little bit of an end to weave in later. And then you're going to just make a loop and then pull up a loop from those loops. And I like to use my knitting needle to pull that loop up. And then you just pull the whole thing tight and up against your knitting needle. Okay, so then you have your two yarns, the dark one and the light one. And then you're going to put your two yarns from your working balls, your working yarns, and you're going to put them between your fingers. Now there's something to, there's a little tip to remember when you're doing double knitting with two colors. You always want those two colors to be dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. So the next color that's going to be put onto this needle is going to be a dark color. So I want that dark color to be going over my forefinger, and the light color is going to be going over my thumb. So we put your forefinger here and your thumb here. So dark is over forefinger, light is over thumb, and then you're going to scoop up that dark color with your knitting needle like this. I'll go slow. You're going to put your knitting needle underneath the light color and then scoop it up with the dark color and pull it around. Now you can kind of see that that looks like a knit stitch because it goes over the top, and if I pull it tight, it's a V. So that's your first knit stitch. Well, actually this is your first, the one that's in the slip knot. This is your second dark colored knit stitch. Now we need to get the light color on. The light color is going to be in the back. So we need to make that one a purl stitch. So we're going to go over the top of the dark color and scoop up the light color with our knitting needle. And now you can see that that looks like a purl stitch because it's got a little bump from the dark yarn. Okay, and now we're going to do that. We're just going to repeat that motion over and over. If we want a dark color, we scoop from the bottom and go over the top of the dark color to get a knit stitch. And if we want a light color, we go over the top of the dark color and scoop up the light color for a purl stitch. Now when you're doing this, make sure you don't pull it too tight. You want a little line of stitches down here to be the same line. If you pull it too tight, then it will start twirling around your needle like this, and then it's really hard to figure out where each of those stitches are when you go back on them. So just keep in mind to keep it just snug against your knitting needle. Okay, so I need a dark color next, so I'm going to go under the light color and over the top of the dark color. Now I need a light stitch next, so I'm going to go over the dark color and under the light color. And then you just keep going and going and going and going until you have the number of stitches that you need. Now your pattern, when you do a double knit pattern, it should say how many stitches you need in total and how many stitches you need of each color. But just keep in mind that the number of dark stitches is the number of stitches you'll have on the front, and the number of light stitches is the number you'll have on the back, or vice versa if you're having light on the front and dark on the back. The total number of stitches should be double what you want your width to be of your finished work. And you can see on here, this is a finished work that I've done. You can see the cast on edge looks very neat and professional. The light is on one side, the dark is on another side, and it meets together right in the middle of the bottom edge. That's what we're going for when we're doing this type of cast on. Okay, so now I've come to the end of my cast on. I've got 20 of each color. And I'm at the end here so that my last one is a light color since my first one is a dark color. And now it's all loose, right? So how do I end up turning it and starting my first row? Well, you need to do an extra twist on the two yarns so they don't come off and get too loose. Okay, so you see that? I just finished this light color. I've got that purl stitch on there. And now I'm going to do an extra twist of my two colors. I'm going to grab it with one hand and then turn it over. That. Kind of hold it. Make sure it doesn't untwist. Okay. And now I need to grab the light color because that's what I'm going to do. And now the light color is in the front. You can tell that because the light color looks like it's got knit stitches coming off, and the dark color looks like it's got purl stitches underneath it. Okay, so we're going to grab the light yarn, and I'm a continental knitter, so I'm going to hold the yarn in my left hand, and I'm kind of grabbing onto this dark yarn with my right hand just to keep it tight. And then I'm going to knit into that first stitch. Okay, now when you do this type of cast on, you actually need to do what's called a combo knitting, which means that you're going to knit into the back of each light colored yarn so that it's twisting those stitches into the correct orientation. So I'm going to knit into the back of this first stitch. Okay, like this. Okay, now I pulled that up. I'm going to let that stitch off. And now I need to grab my dark colored yarn and do a purl stitch. Okay, so I've got my dark colored yarn. I need to bring it to the front because I'm going to do a purl stitch. And I'm going to purl normally through that stitch because it's already in the correct orientation. So I'm going to purl through the front. Like that. Now I do have a cool trick for holding your yarns when you're doing continental two colors. And what I do is I grab both yarns, wrap my pinky around it, put my finger underneath the two yarns together, and then I do a little trick. I pull one of the yarn into the back and around my finger like that. So now I've got two yarns coming off of my finger, but they're separated a little bit so they don't get tangled. Okay, so now I need to do another light colored yarn. So I'm going to go through the back of it because I need to make that into the correct orientation. So through the back of the stitch and knit it. Okay. Now I need to do a dark colored yarn. So I got to bring my needle to the front of the work, and then I'm going to purl through that stitch into the front, but knit through the back of it and knit it. See how much faster that is? Instead of trying to change yarns over and over again, you just hold them all in one hand and then just grab whichever one you need with your left needle. Let me slow down a little bit. Okay, so this is a purl stitch. So I'll bring my needle to the front and my yarns to the front and only grab that dark yarn to purl it. And I'm going to knit through the front or through the back of this one with my light yarn. Purl the dark one.
Clockwise.
Knit
Instead of counterclockwise.
Now you're probably wondering,
if I tried to do
when I purl this,
counterclockwise, then I would mess up this whole thing I've got going on my fingers. And I need to go clockwise because as I go through this entire pattern,
I'm going to always knit that front stitch through the back. And it actually makes double knitting go a lot faster this way because you're simply moving front and back with your needle. The yarns are staying the same on your finger, and you're just deciding whether you're going to purl or knit, and you're just deciding which color you want to grab according to your pattern. And that's the way you go all the way along, just grabbing whichever one you need. Yeah, I'll slow it down again here so you can see it again. So I've got my light yarn, that's the one in front. So that's the one I'm going to knit. I've got my yarns in the back, and I'm going to go through the back of that stitch, grab the light colored yarn, pull it through, drop it off.
Clockwise.
Now I need to purl this one, so I got to put my yarns in the front, and my needle goes in through the front of that stitch. Push that yarn back. Okay, that's how you do it. Dun, 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 dun. Much faster, and I hope you're able to enjoy your double knitting and be able to create your projects a little faster than grabbing that yarn, depending on which yarn you need. Just hold them in one hand.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. And if you'd like more videos from Knitting Nicely, please subscribe. Happy knitting!